Where do the Cleveland Cavaliers go from here after falling behind the Pacers 2-0 best of 7 series and losing 2 games at home? History says it's possible, but it is a tough road to climb. We'll talk about it coming up on the next episode of Courtside with the Cavs on SI. Well, have we recovered yet from whatever happened on Tuesday night? I'm not sure, but Spencer and I are here to hopefully provide some therapy for you Cavs fans. We appreciate you hanging out with us, stopping by Courtside with the Cavs on SI, a podcast brought to you by the Cavaliers on SI, where you can find our written content over at si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. A lot of good stuff coming out of last night's game in terms of commentary from both the Cavaliers players and some of the Indiana Pacers players. And speaking of comments from the Cavaliers players, you can also find all the post-game press conferences up at the YouTube channel here with Cavaliers on SI. Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell, Kenny Atkinson, a couple guys in the locker room. It's all there for you on top of previous episodes of the podcast and our post-game reaction to last night as well. So appreciate you guys subscribing. If you haven't done so already, please do. And Spence, how are we feeling this morning? I don't know, a little over 12 hours removed from whatever the hell happened in Rocket Arena on Tuesday night.
I'll just say, I couldn't sleep. I legitimately couldn't sleep. I almost felt like I was kind of part of the team. And I think that you kind of felt the same way when we were talking in our post-game report. It's really tough. It's really tough to know that you had the game in the palm of your hands and 1 minute can just let that go all the way. And I think that's the toughest part for Cavs fans. I think that's the toughest part for the Cavs, is that you could have been right back in this thing 1-1, and now you have to literally have your back against the wall going into Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, and you got to win on the road. Luckily, the Cavs are a good road team. That is something that they were able to do well all season long. Clearly in Miami, they brought a completely different focus level and ran them out of the gym. But this is a different task. This is tougher, and you also are in there limping with all these injuries that you've had, and also Donovan Mitchell cramping at the end of yesterday's game and dealing with a calf and ankle injury, pushing everything and giving everything he had, left it all on the floor. That's obviously still a physical thing that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of the series and the rest of the playoffs, even if they do get past Indy. So those are the things that you think about. I also slept on this. You got to find a way to win that game. And I don't care who's out there on the floor. You have to be able to inbound the basketball. You've been playing a long time. Professionals, they got to figure out a way to get the ball in cleanly. You have to not have mental lapses. And I know that the guys were tired. I understand that part. But you have to find a way. It's a bottom line business. It sucks. It's really, really tough to handle mentally. But you have to find a way. You have to find a way on your home floor to get that job done.
That's really well said. Here's a couple of things from my perspective. I think I've come to process I think we were both sort of in shock just from what we witnessed. Not even from just from a standpoint of what happened. How did this happen and deteriorate so quickly around the Cavs? And so when I sort of thought about it more this morning, I did find some solace in the idea that that's why we love this game. I mean, Cavs fans won't into that answer, but this is why you enjoy sports, right? Is for moments like that where and it sucks when it happens to you, but as people who cover this team and cover the sport, Spence, we can find some what's the right word here? Because I don't want to say joy because it's not a joyous thing, but we can
silver
find
lining.
Yeah, we can find some I'm trying to think of the right word, but there's some level from our perspective of just this historic sort of thing happening in front of us that we can embrace, I guess, and sort of realize man, that was a cool moment that we were there to witness, even though it went against the Cavs. And if it goes in your team's favor, it's a completely different conversation, which we will talk about in relation to some narratives around this Cavs team here coming up. But the other part of this too is I think that I had that same realization they're feeling this morning as well, which is I understand they're tired, But like you think about so many little moments at the end of that game where it's like they closed it out if they had just done this, or they had just done that, or they had just done this. And the inbound plays won. The not getting the rebound, not boxing out shooter. Now I know there's been some talk that like maybe Halliburton stepped into the paint early and it was a lane violation. They rarely call that type of stuff anyway. There's always guys step into the paint early, so I'm not gonna like hang the hat on that there. But yeah, man, like I do think there is a memorable playoff moment just in general in the NBA does come with from the Cavaliers perspective, this sobering reality that like you needed to execute better down the stretch and you did choke. We can call it like it was a choke job. It was 100%. That's what it was. You were up 7 with 48 seconds to go. You can't lose that game. And people like Max Strus said that in the locker room last night. So they know it. We know it. Fans know it. And I understand where all those frustrations come from. I want to say, like you mentioned, Donovan, obviously, one of the most gutsy performances I think I've ever seen in my life last night. And it sucks that it goes to waste that way. It felt very reminiscent of like LeBron the last year in Cleveland, where I think did he go for 50 against the Warriors in that first game, and it goes to waste because the Draymond Green like didn't put the ball back up play where he thought it was, he thought they were winning or leading or whatever, so he kicked it out. Like LeBron went to put on an absolute dazzling performance, and they fell short. Like it kind of felt like that last night for Donovan. And so you feel for him because he's going through it, and he was trying to will his team to victory. But that was another thought I had this morning, Spence, was, listen, even if you get Evan Mobley back, and that's going to be a huge boost. Like if you get any of these guys back, it's going to be a big boost. But the idea that Donovan in the second round of the playoffs, game 2, is already dealing with the severity of what he is with what he has with his calf injury. Like that I don't know, like him, that is not a winning formula the rest of the way. Now I know he's not going to be calling if guys get healthy to put up 48 every single game, but him having to do that much and exude himself in that way and be, attacking the basket where he takes these spills on the floor, like that can't be a winning recipe for the rest of the playoffs. And that I think is kind of this dark cloud hanging over all this, is like, even if they dig themselves out of this, how much is Donovan Mitchell really going to have left for whatever is left of the playoffs beyond this? Because like that, like you said it best, I think it felt like he played a football game last night. Like he was battered, and I don't know how he keeps doing that for at least 6 more games, or at least 2 more games in this series. If not, if they extend it and they get to 7, like 5 more games in this series, and then beyond that, like 2 more rounds of the playoffs.
And the crazy part is like his teammates picked him up yesterday. Like Max Strus had a really good game. You had Sam Merrill set the tone in the first quarter with the 3 threes. You had so many different contributions. Jarrett Allen was great in the pick and roll with Donovan when they ran that, and was getting rebounds and scoring. He had 22 on 9 shots. You had a lot of contributions. It wasn't just Donovan. Donovan kept them above water, don't get me wrong, but they still had a team effort in that situation.
Yeah.
How many times can you count on that happening? Because it seemed like it was the perfect storm for the Cavs to come and grab this one last night.
Yeah.
And you almost have to play perfect if you don't have your ideal situation with having your guys back, like the Dariuses and the Evans, DeAndre Hunter being down. That is huge. And I saw a couple other comments too, like injuries had something to do with the final minute and the collapse. I said in the moment, sure, maybe you can look at Evans, their usual inbounder. You'd have Darius Garland out there and DeAndre Hunter out there instead of someone like Sam Merrill trying to get open on an inbound. But again, these guys are professionals. You have to find a way. Even if they're grabbing and holding you the way that Kenny's talking about, you got to push back. You got to find a way to grab hold and take it home, because this is the playoffs. It's a results business. And I'm trying to be as positive as I possibly can, because they've earned the right to have that positivity, in my opinion. They've been awesome all year. They've really shown a lot of guts, and especially yesterday. But guts isn't what wins you championships. It's results.
Yeah.
And you got to find a way. Bottom line, period, and paragraph. Like It sucks. It sucks.
Can I ask you, Spence, like, because we saw some comments in our post game last night after the fact. It was hot. We can't really see them in real time all the time unless Megs throws them up on the screen for us, because they're so tiny and there's this little like pop-up that shows up above the comments for some reason. And so we're trying to read them off my very small phone screen while we're like a couple feet away. It's very, very difficult. But as we went back and looked, there was a couple of people who were just going on rants in our in our comment section, which we do encourage. If you need a spaced event, we're here for you. But some of those comments, through some criticism, Kenny Atkinson's way, and so I want to know from your perspective, because listen, I'm not going to give credence to the comments because the comments were like, "Fire this guy, he stinks." But how much blame do you think falls at the feet of Kenny Atkinson last night? Because I've seen some people saying some different things, like he should have kept on in the game and not like for the entire fourth quarter. And my thought is, I don't know what good that would have done you because he was already gassed. It would just meant he was gassed sooner. Obviously like the inbound play, those are things that as a coach, like you got to make sure you're getting those done. He was asked after the game, like how much they work on that stuff. They said it was an everyday thing. So I know it's something they work on, but how much blame when you look back on it, falls out of Kenny Atkinson, who said his biggest regret was that he maybe didn't play guys like Javonte Green and Craig Porter Jr. a little bit longer in this game and try to use more of his bench.
You win it as a team and it loses as a team. So Kenny definitely has his share of the blame. It's just what it is. He's been great all year. Yesterday, he wanted his best players on the floor, understandably so. But the thing that we were talking about post All-Star break was increasing your top guys' minutes and getting them ready for that conditioning so that if a moment like this presented itself, you were ready and prepared for it. Clearly the Cavs were, again, until that last minute and a half.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, people are very results oriented when they talk about sports. And I think that the Cavs process was fantastic yesterday. I thought that they, again, played their hearts out. Donovan even echoed that in his post game. And it's insane to me how you can watch that game and come away from it thinking that they gave up in any sort of fashion. Like, they didn't give up. They just did not execute. And execution is the name of the game, especially in those closing moments. And you have to find a way. I know I sound like a broken record right now, but like, I feel like people are grasping at straws. Like, and we can get into the injury stuff, DG, Dre, and Evan not playing. I know a lot of people were not too happy seeing them on the bench, celebrating and doing all that stuff. And
okay.
I think that's a bunch of
we
trash.
We need to talk about that. Like, I don't know what people want. They were leading this game for pretty much the entirety of it. They were up 20 points at one point. Like, they didn't ultimately lose this game until the final minutes. It's the NBA, guys. Like, when Max Strus throws down that dunk, he'd be the one person who maybe wouldn't celebrate and just kind of would get back. But you don't want him, like, screaming and celebrating and playing to the crowd. Like, fans thought the game was in the bag. Because if they didn't think it was in the bag, they wouldn't have been chanting overrated at Tyrese Halliburton when he was at the free throw line a couple times last night. Like, everybody was enjoying that moment until they weren't. And so I'm not going to look back and be like, well, hey, why are you laughing on the bench and having a good time? Like, this is how it works. Like, yeah, to the victor goes the spoils. But like, in the moment, I don't think anybody thought they were losing that game. Not anybody on the bench, not anybody in that arena. You enjoy the moment, and those guys are always feeding off the crowd and giving themselves a jolt of energy when there's a big play, whether it's a steal or a dunk or a big time three. Like, that's how the game works. So anybody who's like to me, that's nitpicky. Like, I understand there's a lot of reasons to be frustrated. If you're pointing at the bench and saying, why was DeAndre Hunter laughing with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and the game wasn't over yet on the bench? Well, he's not even out there now. To me, you're just being a curmudgeon to be a curmudgeon. Like, that makes no sense. That had no impact on the game whatsoever. It was a guy who was clearly enjoying that his team was winning during that point in the game, and they thought they were going to wrap it up, and then it all came collapsing down in the final minute, like you said, Spence. So I can't do that. I can't go there with the outrage. If you want to be mad, be mad. But you don't have to be mad about, like, every little single detail, especially ones that had nothing to do with the outcome of that game whatsoever.
It's just blind rage. It's blind rage. And, in this situation, knowing the playoffs and seeing what's happened the last couple of years with the Cavs in the playoffs, I think that it's all just kind of created this wave of emotion, which, again, completely understandable. I don't agree with the logic behind it, but I agree with the emotion behind it. That's really, really hard to process as a fan who has been following this team for a long time, has been preached about the core four and all that stuff. But they're also missing the fact that the core four, I think you sent me this earlier in text. The core four has played 4 games together in the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, they've all been together. I meant to verify it, and I literally forgot to verify it. But I saw somewhere that they've only I will make sure I verify that before the next time we have something post-game, whatever, if we do another podcast at the end of the week, whatever it is. I'll make sure I verify that and clarify. But yeah, they've played a very minimal amount of games together. And it makes sense when you think about it. Like, you go back to I don't remember if anybody injured during the Knicks series? Was somebody injured during the Knicks series 2 years ago?
No, they're just getting beat up.
Okay, so maybe beat up. I mean, maybe DG. Did DG miss any games that series? I don't know, but that's the one I have to go back to and look. But like last year, we know Jarrett played a couple games, then he was out. Did he even play? He played game 1. Did he play game 2? And then Donovan missed the Celtics series. And then this year it's been DG hasn't played since game 2. So they had the first 2 together and that was it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the number, but I do want to check that. And that does add to the context here of the entire situation. And listen, you're right. I get why all the frustration and outrage comes to the surface in these moments because fans are mad. And like you said, it's a results-based business. But I want to, I want to say this too. It's funny. I sound like I'm like really revved up and you sound like you're like just very calm, cool, and collected, by the way. Just the way we're both talking. Part of that's just me. I'm loud, but I feel like I need to like tone my voice down a little bit. But anyway.
No, you be you. You be you.
Along the lines of like the blind outrage and people being critical, I just want to point out here, like, and I know we've brought this up now a couple times, but the soft narrative about this team, the narrative that they're not physical enough, that here's another one. The Cavs need to go find an enforcer. I heard people this morning talking about like they need like an old school guy like Kendrick Perkins out there to like really throw some bows and cause a physical presence for this team. Guys, like I look across the bench. Do the Pacers have a guy that does that? Like, do the Pacers have like a guy who's out there just to like be physical and like really like those players are like few and far between. There aren't like a ton of teams that really have this guy that's just like the bruiser, right? Like with the Warriors, you think of Draymond Green. That's an obvious one, but not every team just like has a guy like that. And there's plenty of teams that still win championships without like a guy that stands out as like an enforcer. So I don't buy that they need that. I also think too, Spence, like we talked about this last night as we were leaving the arena. The Cavs were the more physical team last night. It goes along the lines with what Kenny Atkinson was saying. They outplayed them for almost the entire that game, except for the final couple minutes. And I know Tyrese Halliburton had a comment about like they tried to play our game and we showed that they can't win that way. There's context there though. Like they were missing a couple key pieces. If they had those key pieces, they're probably not even playing the Pacers style. Like they had to think creatively and outside of the box. And I applaud Kenny for that because they had to come up with a different strategy being shorthanded to try to beat them. And the strategy was, all right, fine. We're going to give them a more physical game. We're going to play things differently. And they nearly pulled it off except for the final minute, like we said. Like, and that's what I think bothers me about this lazy and very tired and stale conversation about them not being, they're too soft. It is literally based on just what the final score says when it's all said and done. It like the difference between fans firing off their stupid hot takes about Kenny being a terrible coach and the team being soft and then Kenny actually being this brilliant coach and the team not being soft anymore is if that Tyrese Halliburton 3-pointer falls or it doesn't fall. If that thing clanks off the back iron, the conversation that we are having today is, wow, they survived, but man, what a gritty performance from Donovan Mitchell, who showed just how tough he and this team can be. What a gritty performance from the role players on this team. Max Strus, Sam Merrill, Dean Wade on the defensive end, especially like contributing to this game. Jared Allen with a double-double. Like we are pointing to all these things and saying they showed they can be physical. They threw the counter punch after the Pacers threw the first punch in game 1. The only difference between us having that conversation and the conversation we're having right now is quite literally that 3-point shot falls. And so I get it. Like, yes, it's a results-based business. But I just can't keep subscribing to this idea that they're soft because, well, they lost a game down the stretch here and it didn't go like they played their asses off last night. I don't like say what you want about the way the game ended. They have to get the job done. Yes, I 100% agree. But I do not walk away from that game last night thinking, man, they're just a bunch of softies. They can't beat this team. They can't beat good teams in the playoffs because they're soft. They're just not they're not mentally tough, like all these different. No, for 47 minutes, just about, they were as physically and mentally tough as you can be. And yeah, at the end, it came down to a couple plays here or there that decided the game. Guess what? That's basketball in the NBA. That's basketball in the playoffs. Like, you win in the margins sometimes, and the Pacers did that yesterday. You tip your cap and you keep moving. As grueling and heart breaking as it was, you find a way, and that's how it goes. So I'm sorry, I can't keep doing this with the soft conversation because that wouldn't even be a conversation today if they win that. Like, if that Halliburton shot doesn't fall or makes the free throw, and then, the Cavs get the Cavs just get the rebound, and then they're fouled, and then they sink their free throws, and they sneak out of there with like a 3-point win or something like that. Like, nobody is saying that they're soft anymore. And so I can't let it be like this in the margins result that decides if this team is tough or not. Like, I just can't live that way. They proved to me that they were tough. They didn't get the job done, but to me, it proved that they were tough.
I think so too. I don't really have too much to add to that. I do live in a world of gray areas for me, and you're getting your comments right now. If you want to go back at fans, if you want to, or if you just let that out, I see that.
I mean, listen, like,
thank you for the comments. By the way, guys,
I knew it was going to come. Jay Diaz says team is soft. Sorry, I mean, listen, I as much as I say this, and I can only preach on my pedestal and get up on a soapbox and say it so many times on this platform or others, and people can ignore me if they want. At the end of the day, I get like, it's not going to go away until they start winning. Like, if they come back and win the series, it'll change. If they even if they win game 3, maybe it'll start to change a little bit depending on how they win. Like, they are the only ones that can change it. So it kind of is exhausting for me to just keep doing this over and over because it's not going to matter. But I'm not subscribing to that even after last night, because I think they showed they are a very tough team. And ultimately, as Donovan would even admit, it comes down to, like, they have to be the ones who change the narrative about themselves. And that was also something Jared Allen said earlier in the week as well.
Yeah. And I think too, the way that the fans are looking at this as well is, okay, you start out in the playoffs, you lose to the Knicks, you think the Knicks are a dirty team. You get taken to the brink in a 7-game series with the Magic, and you think the Magic are a dirty team. Now Indiana is doing the same stuff, and people are starting to try to call them dirty. At what point are you not dirty enough? And I think that is what they want to see. Is they want to see some pushback. They want to see a little bit more of a fight in them. But I'm with you. Last night is not a good way to look at that, because they were pushing back. They were grabbing and holding. The Cavs didn't get called for fouls that they should have been gotten called fouls for.
If you're looking for people that were physical, Max Strus was phenomenal last night. He was great.
Yes, dude. The team was great. Everyone, honestly, except for Ty Jerome, was really good last night, including Okoro, who is just like everyone loves to pick on, and he's defending his butt off. Halliburton gets 1 field goal attempt on him. Like,
he probably that might be a regret of Kenny's, is he maybe should have had a Okoro in on that situation on Halliburton, but yeah. That's maybe one thing, because he did make the switch and then that didn't end well. But anyway, continue.
No, there's not really much else I was going to say there, but I think it's just because it's continually happened and they haven't been healthy when needed to be, and this is even on top of having such a good year of keeping them fresh. And as I mentioned last night, their nutrition, their bodies are right, so that they're freshest for the most pivotal part of the playoffs. And you see guys are gassed playing, 34, 35 minutes. And then now the narrative is flipped. Tibbs is having these guys play damn near 50 minutes in an overtime game, and those guys look fresh as a daisy because of what he did in the regular season. So now it's kind of the narrative's flipping, and JB would play his core 4 a ton when he was here.
Yeah.
So now that they're seeing guys get gassed under Kenny, And now they're probably thinking, okay, maybe we should have played. So there's a bunch of second guessing going on, is basically what I'm saying from their perspective. And I don't know who's right. Honestly, I don't know who's right, because I have always been in the camp of go deeper, and Kenny seemed to have had that thought as well.
And that's what made the Cavs great this year.
Yep. Strength in numbers, so to speak, as the Warriors used to do it back in the day. But yeah, it's, again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. It's just a really tough pill to swallow. And unfortunately, for as much good as they've done, you could do 99 good things. You're going to remember the one bad thing you did.
I think that's a really, honestly, sobering way to put it. And I think that's kind of sports in general in a nutshell, which is why we love them. And it's also frustrating at the same time. I want to, before we get out of here, we sort of will wrap up here in the next several minutes or so. But I actually think there's a couple comments here will lead into I want to go back and revisit history on how often teams have lost the first two games at home and come back and won. There's only a handful of teams that have done it. A couple teams nearly did it the last couple years. So if you're looking for confidence, we'll give it to you. But I think along those lines, Dylan Hardy comments, give me your honest opinion. If Don stays healthy and we get DG and Hunter back and Mobley is still injured, can we take two from Indy? I also think there was a follow-up comment from Plushies, which sounds like a very, if we're talking in the name of talking about soft, Plushies sounds like something that would be used to describe Charmin toilet paper. So that actually sounds like a very soft YouTube handle. No offense, Plushies. He did admit he's an Indiana fan. I'm not roasting you because you're an Indiana fan. I just think the name's kind of funny. Dylan, he says, Dylan, Indy is undefeated at home when Holly plays. Halliburton. It's raps, bro. Gamebridge is an absolute madhouse. That is they're certainly going to be a tough team to play. Here's what I'll say. If they get a couple of these guys back, or if they get at least relatively healthy, the Cavaliers are a team that are built to beat anybody on any floor at any time. So do I believe they can take two from Indy? I do. Does that mean I think it's going to be easy, or that I'm going to it like feeling like, it's okay, they'll get to? No. Obviously, I'm nervous for this team. I'm nervous for this fan base. I don't necessarily think that they are going to take two in Indy. I kind of feel like they're going to end up splitting and come home for a game 5 and with their season on the line. But yes, if they get a couple of these guys back Friday and potentially Saturday, there is a chance that, yes, they are built to beat anybody on any given night at any floor. Like you said, they're a good road team. So it's just about now going out and doing it. Like we've sort of talked about, they have to be the ones to sort of prove it.
And Jarrett even alluded to it. They thought they found something that worked offensively.
Yeah.
And then that's one big 4 shooters around them, and found a way to counteract Indy's defense in the half court. So that is something you can bring out of a positive from here. I think also knowing that you gave up 34, 35, whatever it was in the second, third, and fourth quarter, that you can guard better. That's also another thing that the Cavs are going to have to try and lock in and do and limit them. It's not like Indiana was even shooting the ball like they did in game 1, but they were still a little bit too loose defensively on other guys. I thought they did a pretty good job on Halliburton last night. I'm just going to be frank with you. I think that they did a really good job on Halliburton last night. Only took 11 shots. He took the biggest one of the night, obviously, but dang, I thought they did a heck of a job on Halliburton, and the guys that made you pay were, the Miles Turners of the world. And, Pascal is really good at what he does. Like, they have a very good team. So they're just going to have to figure out a way to bring the same intensity that they brought in the first quarter against this team when they set the tone. They made all their shots, and they were holding the Pacers to, I think, 6 points through the first 6 minutes of the first quarter. I think that right there is going to be the key on the road, is you have to defend. I think you still have to slow it down. Clearly, you want to make it a physical game. I know that people are going to the label that the Cavs can't play physically, whatever that is, but they played physically in game 2. You bring that on the road, you have to do that again, and you have to slow it down, and you want a knockdown, drag-out fight the rest of this series, or until you get your guys back. Then you can get back to the style you're used to playing and accustomed to playing. Yeah. But I thought they adapted pretty dang well in game 2. You have to bring that on the road now.
By the way, we apparently got a new subscriber from Plushies who says, good Charmin Rose subbed, even though I love my Pacers. So we have a Pacers fan subscribe to the channel. How about that, Spence?
Appreciate it, Plushies.
We're bringing the fan bases together. How about that? So I do want to get us out of here, I want to take a look back at history because, Spence, I did some digging on this. I was up late last night doing some digging on this. There are 6 teams in NBA history that have come back after losing. This is strictly just losing, because there's more teams that have come back from a 2-0 deficit, but strictly losing the first 2 games at home and then coming back in a series and winning. The first one was the 1969 Los Angeles Lakers. They fell behind the Warriors, the San Francisco Warriors at the time, 0-2, ended up winning 4 straight to win that series. The second team to do it was the 1992-93 Phoenix Suns. That was after the NBA had added the first round, which was only 5 games at the time. So they lost the first 2 at home to the Lakers and then won 3 straight to win that series in advance. Again, it was only a 5-game series. Then 1 year later, the Suns actually had the script flipped on them. They were the away team that took 2 on the road against the Houston Rockets. This is the Houston Rockets that obviously, when Jordan was, because this is 93-94, Jordan obviously not playing at that year, and the Houston Rockets going to win a couple titles because of it. They won 2 in Houston, and then Houston went on to win in 7 games and flip the script. Then you got to go to 2004-2005, the Dallas Mavericks in the first round were down 0-2 to the Rockets after losing 2 at home. They went on to win their first round series in 7. By the way, those first 3 examples, all those teams that came back from 0-2 went on to the NBA Finals. Only one of them, the Houston Rockets, won it. The Mavs won in the first round after being down 0-2 and losing their first 2 at home. They lost in the very next round. The 2016-17 Boston Celtics dropped the first 2 at home to the Bulls in the first round and then ended up winning the next 4 to advance on to, or sorry, that was in the conference semifinals. So I think it was the first round, but then they made it to the conference finals and they lost to LeBron and the Cavs that year. And then the 2020-21 Los Angeles Clippers became the 6th team to do it. They lost their first 2 at home against the Mavericks and then went on to win in 7 games. Their run eventually ended in conference finals that year as well. Now, real quick, those are the only teams that have ever pulled it off. 2 teams in the last 2 seasons, though, came very, very close. The Celtics in 2023, if you remember, they lost not only the first 2 at home to the Heat, they then went to Miami and lost 3 straight to start that series and nearly became the first team to ever come back and win a series after being down 0-3, but they fell short in Game 7 on their home floor. And then just last year, the defending champion Denver Nuggets dropped their first 2 at home to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they ended up winning the next 3 in a row to take a 3-2 series lead, and then Minnesota won the last 2. So there is some precedent that this can happen. Now, the Cavs are banged up, so that's going to be the big factor here. If they get some guys back, maybe they can change the course of history here and make something happen. So if you're trying to find some hope that it could happen, yes, we've even seen some recent teams, really good recent teams, do it. Getting it done, though, and finishing the job, winning 4 of the last 5 is probably the toughest part, though. We'll see if the Cavaliers can actually do it.
Show why you're the top seed in the East. It's the only thing. Like Donovan said it. You could sit here, dwell on this for 4 or 5 days, and then have it be over, go home. Or you can just get ready for the next game and take it game by game and do what you know you've been doing all season long. Got to find a way. Got to be ready. And he said everyone in that locker room is going to be ready for Game 3. So I got to take them at face value because they've been ready all year long. And they're road warriors. 30-11 this year.
Yeah.
Did a really good job on the road. And again, in Miami, just completely ended that series very quickly. So I don't know. Can you do that against Indianapolis at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Bankers Life Fieldhouse? We'll see. It's not an easy task.
We have talked so much. The toughness, mental toughness is I think the theme here moving forward for this Cavs team. Do they have the mental fortitude? Do they have the goal to be able to rally somehow after a gut-wrenching loss like last night was and refocus themselves, leave that one behind them, and go out there and try to win Game 3 and 4? That's what they got to do. It's going to be put to the test. Prove, like you said, that you're the number 1 seed for a reason and that that's something that you can do and overcome. And they're going to be tested to try to do that here in the coming days. So, guys, we appreciate the conversation. I appreciate you letting me take you through that. I'll walk down memory lane here because we do try to provide some positivity. So we're trying to give the Cavs fans some hope that this thing can still happen. And like I said, there's some recent examples that show that they can certainly still make it a series, and that's not over quite yet. We appreciate you stopping by. Please subscribe to the channel. Cleveland Cavaliers on SI, the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, where you can find content post-game throughout the week, our post-game stand-ups, more episodes of the podcast, and much, much more. Also, head on over to si.com/NBA/Cavaliers for any of our written content. I put a piece up with that exact sort of walkthrough history of the teams that have pulled off losing their first two at home and then coming back and winning. So you can check that out among a bunch of other pieces as well. Spence, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no. If there's anything I can take from this and covering a playoff series, and I'm really happy I'm going to Indianapolis. That'll be on Friday, and I'll be there for the last 2 games. We'll see how it shakes out. Hopefully I'm a good luck charm for. But I'll just say this, like, you don't understand the mental grind of the schedule of an NBA season and the playoffs until you're actually in it. And as a media member, I can't sleep. I can't get the proper, times to eat. My schedule's all messed up. So I
had to go see a movie today and make myself feel better.
It puts me in the shoes of a professional athlete and thinking of what they actually have to go through. And I'm not trying to be like, some white knight for professional athletes. They are paid to do what they do, but just like thinking of that. Yeah. And I know that the fans don't really have that perspective because they're not there every day too. It's a grind. It's a grind. Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's one team standing in June, and then it starts all over again just a week later. So that's also kind of weighed on my mind as well. Just like I'm mentally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted myself. I don't know about you, but it's been a blast so far, and I don't think it's going to be coming to an end. I think that they're going to come out in game 3 and really try to prove something, and Kenny's going to have some different tweaks to put in there as well.
Yeah, we certainly hope that it was not our last game at Rocket Arena this year. We certainly hope that we get a chance to travel together to a Game 6 in Indy, Spence, next week. So we'll see if the Cavaliers can rally here in Games 3 and 4 on Saturday and then next Monday as well. In the meantime, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It's Friday and Sunday. My bad. I apologize. I messed up the days.
He's mentally exhausted.
I was thinking of the Heat series. Yeah, Friday and Sunday. In the meantime, thanks again for following along. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and keep on following along with all things Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.